everything that you think is wrong with language models will be traced back to the token.
Mm.
All right. But just because you get a better tokening method, so let's say instead of 1 million tokens, you have 1 billion tokens. Well, only a small percentage of those tokens are actually important. The rest of them are garbage.
And this is what the DeepSeek guys figured out.
Yes. Yep. They took the time to look at, okay, which tokens are firing when we do the reinforcement learning. And if you know that, you can just basically zero out or compress the memory part, right, of the transformers to not have those tokens because it's useless.
All right, welcome to Practical AI, everybody. My name's Jeff. I'm here with Peter Lin. We are sponsored by Pocket AI. Pocket AI is a tool used to edit the weights of your model. With Pocket AI, you can prune over 60% of the weights of your model while increasing accuracy. Peter, on a similar topic to Pocket AI, we have the DeepSeek model that is kind of
Right.
ruffling feathers, maybe even causing the stock market to crash.
Yeah.
Tell us with your best summary, what is DeepSeek and what do they do?
So DeepSeek is actually a model that was produced by a trading firm, and this was their side project, meaning their day job isn't to build models. Their day job is actually quants. So they're trading guys.
Okay.
And so first of all, like you wouldn't expect a quant company to beat OpenAI, but that's what's happened. And so DeepSeek, because they're a Chinese firm, they don't get access to the best chips from NVIDIA. They only get the chopped down versions. Now, everyone knows that China smuggles in through the black market the most advanced chips. So chances are they probably smuggled in some chips, but obviously they can't admit that.
Okay. So, but what is DeepSeek doing? Like what it's a new model.
Yep.
Why is everybody freaking out about it though?
So they're freaking out because one, it's smaller. They spent less money and time to train than all the big guys, Meta, Apple, Microsoft, OpenAI, Anthropic, right? So all these guys are using huge clusters, 100,000 or 50,000 or 60,000 H100 clusters, and they're training it for anywhere from 16 to 18 months. And so the prices depends, right? Like it goes from 50 million up to 150 million per run, which is not cheap, obviously. And if you do multiple runs, right? So like the burn rate meaning how much they spend on actual training per year is probably, north of $500 million, $500 million a year just for training. Just and that's not the human cost. That's not the programmers, the people in the office, the electric bill for the office, the janitor. None of that. This is just pure compute time to train.
And so the allegedly, I will say, the Chinese quant guys did this for as little as 10 million bucks.
Yeah, I think they officially say like 2 to 3 million, so it's probably more than that. But even if it's off by like four, let's say it's 20 million. That's still way cheaper than 200 million.
Well, 500 per year, right? And they did this in just
Yeah.
a fraction amount of time. Okay. So what do you think based on the research and what you've pieced together, and we'll put in some maybe at least one of the YouTube videos, like Yannick has one on this, but what do you think they did, and do you think it's real?
So one is the model is already out. It's up on Hugging Face already. There's a GitHub page for it, and so it is real. All the way, it's the model. Everything is open source, so anyone can download it. And actually, Hugging Face actually went and validated that it's real. And actually, several YouTubers actually downloaded it and ran it on their MacBooks, and it ran as fast as you could read. So it's absolutely real.
Could you run even Llama 3 on your
You can run
laptop?
Llama 3, but when you read it, so just if you just Google for Llama 3 on a MacBook, you'll see usually people will put two Macs together in a cluster mode.
Mm.
And even then, when you prompt it, the response is pretty slow. Like it's like probably one word every minute, every second and a half. So you can literally see like the book is name blah blah
Got
blah
it.
blah 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 blah.
Got it. So, so this thing's smaller, it's efficient,
Yeah,
it works. It apparently allegedly compares really well to O1,
it
right?
does. Yeah.
And so what did they do? What do you think they did based on on what other people are saying?
So based on the papers that they released, so one is during reinforcement learning, they just they had to be more innovative, right? Because they don't have Microsoft as a sugar daddy to give them 100,000 GPU cluster to train because they can't. So if you've only got 10,000 or 40,000 GPUs, you just have to be more efficient. So that means when you do your reinforcement learning, you can't just brute force it now. Like you have to be smarter. So what they did was they tweak the policy part of reinforcement learning, which is the policy is what helps your model align and get better at fine tuning. So little tweaks can give you huge gains. So one is that. The other one is when you do the training, you can record the activations at each layer. That's called the activation output. If you look at that and then you only update those weights, well, now you're updating fewer weights for every single layer. And if you've got 100 layers or 200 layers, you're updating just a fraction of the weights. You're not updating all of the weights. So obviously that's much more efficient by probably 2 or 3 orders of magnitude.
Okay, so they don't have the hardware, so they have to innovate, right? Necessity is the mother of all inventions. So they they can't just throw more data.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you explained to me earlier is that they basically started to figure out which tokens
Right.
were required to train.
Yeah.
And was this part of the policy thing? Is that part of that?
Well, so that's part of the optimization, right? Because so for example, when Llama 3 came out, they increased the number of tokens because if you go back to um, kind of the classic problems of language models is the tokens is what helps you figure out how to learn the language and learn the subject. And if your token count is only 1,000, well, then you can't really learn too much. So that's why with each new version of language models, they've always increased the number of tokens because that gives you kind of better control, right? Because if there's some concepts that can't be expressed with your tokening, well, then it's never going to learn it,
Like sarcasm.
right? So that's one of the kind of limitations. And Andre in his YouTube video about let's build GPT together, he mentions this like everything that you think is wrong with language models can be traced back to the token.
Mm.
All right. But just because you get a better tokening method, so let's say instead of 1 million tokens, you have 1 billion tokens. Well, only a small percentage of those tokens are actually important. The rest of them are garbage.
And this is what the DeepSeek guys figured out.
Yes. Yep. They took the time to look at, okay, which tokens are firing when we do the reinforcement learning. And if you know that, you can just basically zero out or compress the memory part, right, of the transformers to not have those tokens because it's useless.
Okay. Now you also mentioned that the activations, right?
Yep.
This is similar to what Pocket AI does. So explain the difference between what Pocket AI does for the weights and
Yep.
what DeepSeek did for the weight activations.
So DeepSeek just said, okay, when we're doing reinforcement learning, let's just look at which weights are important and only update those. So they're not actually comparing it between runs. They're just saying, well, we'll let it run as usual. But now let's not update all 10,000 or all 500,000 weights in each layer. So if layer one's got 500,000 weights, but only 10,000 fire, everyone else just updates all of them, even if there was no change. It still goes back and it tries to change it. They're like, only 2,000 out of this 500,000 were activated. Let's just update those 2,000. And so now, obviously, that's a lot less work.
Yeah. Well, I think you were saying that with Pocket AI, it'd be a lot easier now to go look at this model because it's got so many fewer parameters in general. Like what
Exactly.
is the number? Do we know the number that they have for parameters?
No, I didn't look too closely, but the one of the challenges for Pocket AI is as the model gets bigger, because we're running on a MacBook, like you can't fit a 1 trillion parameter model on a MacBook 4 fully loaded because you can't. It's not possible.
Right.
But now with DeepSeek, well, if you only have a fraction of those weights, you can run it fine now. So actually, this is actually a benefit to us, and our tool should be able to help them to actually figure out, okay, we know what the subset of parameters are important in each layer, and now it's even easier for us to then help them figure out, like, okay, this is what those weights mean, and this is what it, and now we can actually compare between iterations and go, okay, iteration 20 and 400, this is what changed. And now they can actually start to understand, interpret what those weights actually mean.
And that's still a black box. They still don't know what it means. They know
Yeah.
enough, at least how they trained, to understand that there's something statistically that matters
Yeah.
with turning these on or off, but they
Yep.
don't actually know what it means, right?
Right. Yeah. And to me, this is kind of the one of the important steps to getting to interpretability, right? Because if you've got 500 billion parameters, interpreting 500 billion parameters is a lot harder than interpreting 50 million parameters.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like boiling a cup of tea versus boiling the ocean. Well, okay, how long do we boil the ocean?
Right. Okay, so they did it. It works.
Yeah.
What's the impact on the industry? I mean, the stocks are falling today because of this. The even if everybody changes their method to
Right.
this thing and skinny, it makes efficient models, right? there's a lot of money that's been dumped into this method that has to be recouped at some point, you would hope.
Right. Well, you can't, right? So, I was thinking like who invested in OpenAI early on? So if someone dropped 2 billion on OpenAI thinking this will make me a lot of money, well, their chances of making that back is, probably less than 5% now. But
Because someone figured out something so much more efficient and
much
better.
better, right? And so, but then again, I don't feel bad for the person that invested 2 billion because that was their pocket change anyways. So they're fine. They're not gonna be on the street, but they're probably gonna be pissed.
But on the good side then, with every sort of big jump in innovation and change, there's going to be a ripple effect that helps everybody, right? So now there's no point in making big inefficient models. You
Yeah.
would guess that between Anthropic and OpenAI and Tesla and everybody, they're going to start thinking along these lines, right?
Well, they'll have to, right? Because you can't just keep burning $500 billion worth of energy every year because Microsoft is giving you a blank check.
Yeah.
And at some point, Microsoft's going to say, no, sorry, OpenAI, you don't get, 10 billion or 50 billion credits anymore. You get 1 billion. Make do.
Yeah, I'm trying to imagine like the board meeting today at OpenAI or Anthropic, and
Right. Or
someone
Azure.
asks, why, why were they able to do it and you weren't? And it
Yeah.
sounds to me like part of the answer is because we had all the money in the world and
Yeah.
we didn't need to innovate.
Yep. Well, that's the fact, right? Is they were given a huge pocket and a blank check, and so they used it in to them that was the most efficient development method. Bigger, more data, more hardware, more energy, more data centers, because that was the kind of the mode, and that got them ahead. And so they just kept doing the same thing, rinse and repeat.
Yeah. Fun topic. I feel like this DeepSeek thing will have a bigger ripple effect than just about anything over the last 12 months or so. We'll see. But Peter, good discussion, good topic. Thanks for sharing. Remember, everybody, you can follow us on Spotify if you prefer to listen. We'll be back next time with another topic. Take care.